Ladies and gentlemen, hello there. You are watching L24 Midnight News coming to you live from Algiers. And to the headlines. Sonatrach, the Algerian oil giant, revealed a massive plan to put up 100 billion cubic meters of natural gas per year in next 5 years. Escalating tension and ignoring efforts to reduce violence, Zionist newly elected government seeks to legitimize settlement bases in the northern West Bank. Also coming up next, China warned US and its nuclear allies, Australia and the United Kingdom, after they unveiled a deal that will see Australia purchase nuclear-powered attack submarines. To begin with, the Ugandan president concluded on Tuesday his 4-day state visit to Algeria at the invitation of Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. On Monday, the Ugandan president visited the Nuclear Research Center in Algiers, accompanied by the Algerian Energy and Mines Minister Mohamed Arqab. On the same day, the President of the Republic of Uganda received the Algerian Energy and Mines Minister Mohamed Arqab and the delegation from the Algerian Economic Renewal Council. Still in Algeria, the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Joseph Borrell, affirmed that Algeria and European Union are in multilateral partnership, noticing that European Commission's keenness to develop this partnership according to its real components.
I'm happy to be in Algeria, a country that is a strategic partner for the European Union, a country that has an effective role in the neighboring countries. It is my first visit in my capacity as High Representative of the European Union. I would like to thank President Abdelmajid Tebboune and Prime Minister Ayman Abdelrahman for their warm reception. We had extensive and constructive talks. The European Union and Algeria always knew a set of challenges. Algeria and European Union were able to build a strong partnership from which both parties benefit.
Same line of thought also, Borrell welcomed Algeria's election to membership in the United Nations Human Rights Council. After the reception on Monday by Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, he confirmed in a statement that the EU would be happy to work with Algeria in this regard.
I
also welcomed Algeria's election to the United Nations Human Rights Council. This membership includes several responsibilities, including respect for fundamental rights, such as freedom of expression and freedom of the press. We will be very happy to work together with Algeria on this very important subject that concerns us.
And regarding the Palestinian cause, EU's diplomats stressed that the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories is worrying due to the violence escalation, stressing that the two-state solution remains subject to international consensus with the exception of the Zionist entity.
We discussed extensively the peace process and the alarming situation in the Middle East as escalations continue in the occupied Palestinian territories. We must intensify our efforts to ease tensions as well as to open horizons of dialogue in order to achieve peace. In this regard, we discussed with the Algerian parties the initiative of Saudi Foreign Minister and the Secretary General of the Arab State League in order to explore ways to relaunch the peace process with a two-state solution that put all parties in agreement apart from the Zionist entity. And Algeria plays a pivotal role in this matter.
Still in Algeria, but in a different matter, Lieutenant General Said Chengriha, Chief of Staff of People's National Army, received the commander of the National Defense Forces of South Africa, Lieutenant General Rodzani Mavulunya, who is on an official visit to Algeria at the head of the important military delegation. According to the statement of the Minister of National Defense, the two sides discussed the state of military cooperation between the two countries and ways to continuously enhance it. The meeting dealt with security challenges known to the world in general and the African continent in particular. Now, still in Algeria, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Mr. Ammar Bellani, received today Mr. Ladislav Hemran, head of European Union Agency for Criminal Justice Cooperation. The Secretary General emphasized the political will of Algerian authorities to launch close cooperation with the EU agency to benefit from its extensive experience, as well as to strengthen cooperation relations between the judicial authorities in Algeria and the member countries of the European Union. In turn, Mr. Ladislav Hemran expressed his authorities' readiness and commitment to provide all necessary forms of support and technical assistance to the Algerian judicial authorities in the field of investigation to the recovery of looted funds and assets from Algeria. The Council of the Arab Ministers of Health has ratified Algeria's proposal to create an Arab Agency for Health Development and the Arab Center for Cooperation and the Research on HIV. The Council also agreed that Algeria would host the headquarters of the two new bodies. Hussein Berkan.
The 58th session of the Council of Arab Ministers of Health, hosted and chaired by Algeria, concluded its work on the second day in the Algerian capital. The Council approved 25 articles proposed by various Arab countries, including two submitted by Algeria relating to the establishment of an Arab Agency for Health Development and Arab Center for Cooperation and Research on HIV based in Algeria.
I think it was a successful session because it allowed all Arab states to give their opinions and proposals about significant matters related to the Arab collaborations in the health field in order to face any pandemic or any health emergency.
Haifa Abu Ghazala, Assistant Secretary General of League of Arab States, expressed gratitude for the successful session chaired by Algeria and the consensus on all 25 articles produced by the Council.
We have all pointed out and emphasized our gratefulness for having this important session that was chaired by Algeria. There was a consensus on all the 25 articles that were produced by this session. I'd like to congratulate the Minister for the success of this session and for his leadership, and once again, I would like to thank Algerian government and people for their special hospitality.
Revitalizing Arab cooperation and strengthening joint efforts in various health fields were crowned with a success by adopting the foundations for approaching them. The Algerian Minister of Health announced that the mechanisms of embodiment would follow at the level of Social and Economic Council for the Arab League.
In economy, Algeria's trade surplus reached $18 billion in the first 9 months of 2022 compared to $790 million deficit in the same period in 2021. According to a report by the Bank of Algeria, the balance of payment also showed a surplus of $12 billion compared to $2.5 billion deficit in the end of September 2021. In economy still, the CEO of the Algerian company Sonatrach, Tawfiq Hakkar, announced his group's intention to put 100 billion cubic meters of gas annually on the market over the next 5 years.
Algeria plans to market no less than 100 billion cubic meters of natural gas per year over the next 5 years, announced Tuesday from Oran the CEO of the giant group Sonatrach, Tawfiq Hakkar, in a speech at the opening of the proceedings of the 7th Forum of the Algerian Gas Industry Association.
We intend to continue developing our potential of natural gas with the aim of pumping an additional volume into the national and international market, especially the European market. Sonatrach is pumping 100 billion cubic meters of gas over the next 5 years.
The energy group intends to continue to develop its gas potential in order to place additional volumes on national and international markets, particularly the European market, since Europe is facing a tough energy crisis.
We know that the energy security is a major stake for our country and for the world. which is why we are committed to guaranteeing reliable supply in natural gas to meet the needs of our economy and our population.
Natural gas is a fundamental energy that contributes to the fair and inclusive energy transition. For that, Sonatrach is committed to raise the volume of Algerian energy experts in the short term with an eco-friendly plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world needs more energy, but it also requires clean air and less greenhouse gas emissions. And to this end, it is crucial to rapidly scale up existing cleaner energy sources and technologies, such as wind and solar, gas flaring and methane emissions reduction, coal-to-gas switching, carbon capture utilization and storage, low-carbon hydrogen, and modern biomass.
The group aim is to preserve environment using environment-friendly production. Sonatrach prioritized the reduction of flared gas with a goal of zero flaring by the year 2030, in addition to plans to reduce methane emissions that it wants to finalize and roll out across all of its facilities.
After being suspended for 2 years, Tunisia's new parliament held its first session and elected Ibrahim Boudrabala as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Boudrabala expressed his hopes for a peaceful and united Tunisia moving forward.
After this very moment, we are a unity. We work hand in hand in order to take on the challenge, which is that this council serves the need of the Tunisian people. I assure you that this day is the launching day to build the Tunisia of tomorrow. In this first session, legislators need to start putting in place legislations that goes in line with the will of Tunisians, without forgetting that these deputies are responsible before the Tunisian people, and the Tunisians can withdraw their confidence if the parliamentarians did not respect the will of the Tunisian people.
Spanish media has revealed new details about Moroccan blackmail after Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez sent a letter to the Moroccan king disavowing his country's position on the Sahrawi issue. The report claims that Sanchez's policies have put the fate of the country at risk and held it hostage to narrow interests. In the Middle East, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemned the Zionist Knesset's abolition of the so-called disengagement law as a step toward legitimizing settlement bases in the northern West Bank, escalating tension and ignoring efforts to reduce violence. Meanwhile, the Zionist occupation forces arrested 8 Palestinians in the occupied city of Al-Quds and launched raids in the village of Urmana west of Jenin. Still in Asia, the value of Lebanese pound has fallen to a historic low of 100,000 against the US dollar on the country's parallel market, amid the resumption of a strike movement of the Association of Banks of Lebanon. The currency's market value was 60,000 to the dollar in late January. Thus, the current economic situation has plunged much of the population into poverty. In Europe now, a Russian Su-27 fighter just intercepted and struck the propeller of U.S. military MK-9 Reaper surveillance drone on Tuesday, causing it to crash into Black Sea in an incident condemned as unsafe and unprofessional by the Pentagon. Though the Russian Defense Ministry refused to take the blame of this accusation, claiming it is a false data, the U.S. military said that incident followed a pattern of dangerous behavior by Russian pilots operating near the aircraft flown by the U.S. and its allies, including over the Black Sea.
U.S. Air Forces in Europe, Air Forces Africa routinely fly aircraft throughout Europe over sovereign territory and throughout international airspace in coordination with applicable host nation and international laws. In order to bolster collective European defense and security, these missions support allied, partner, and U.S. national objectives. As the U.S. Air Forces in Europe, Air Forces Africa Commander emphasized in European Command Statement, quote, U.S. and allied aircraft will continue to operate in international airspace, and we call on the Russians to conduct themselves professionally and safely.
Still in the Black Sea, but this time with grain talks that will continue to secure a deal ahead of a deadline later this week. The United Nations and Turkey said on Tuesday after Kiev rejected the Russian push for a reduced 60-day renewal, Russia suggested allowing Black Sea grain shipments to be renewed for 60 days on Monday, but it says it has not yet received an official response from all parties of the proposal. President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday hailed Russia's economic strength in the face of Western sanctions. Putin said that he had been worried about the economy when the West imposed unprecedented waves of sanctions last year, but had proved stronger than expected.
We have increased our economic sovereignty many times over. After all, what did our enemy count on? That we would collapse in 2-3 weeks, or in a month. That's what they were counting on. The calculations were that businesses would come to a halt because of the refusal of our partners to work together with us in the economy. The financial system would collapse, and thousands of people, tens of thousands, would be out of work, would take to the streets and protest. Russia would sway from within and collapse. That is what they counted on. This did not happen. It turned out for many of us, and even more so for Western countries, that the fundamental foundations of Russia's stability are much stronger than anyone thought.
The US, UK and Australia have unveiled a decades-long project to supply Canberra with nuclear-powered submarines, entering a historic partnership, but the deal was met with fears of nuclear proliferation and arms race. Mimzian.
After 18 months of efforts, the US, the UK and Australia unveiled a historic military and industrial partnership called AUKUS. An immense industrial effort and an unprecedented partnership with a common concern, the rise of China in the Indo-Pacific. For the first time, Australia will get at least 3 nuclear-powered submarines, becoming the 7th country to have the nuclear navy vessels in the world.
Our unprecedented trilateral cooperation, I believe, is testament to the strength of the long-standing ties that unite us, and to our shared commitment of ensuring the Indo-Pacific remains free and open.
As part of the new security alliance, the US will partner with the UK to build a new SSN AUKUS submarine based with British design and US technologies.
The AUKUS agreement we confirm here in San Diego represents the biggest single investment in Australia's defence capability in all of our history, strengthening Australia's national security and stability in our region.
However, Beijing has strongly criticized the multi-billion-dollar naval deal, saying the pact stimulates an arms race.
We have increased our economic sovereignty many times over. After all, what did our enemy count on? That we would collapse in 2-3 weeks, or in a month. That's what they were counting on. The calculations were that businesses would come to a halt because of the refusal of our partners to work together with us in the economy. The financial system would collapse, and thousands of people, tens of thousands, would be out of work, would take to the streets and protest. Russia would sway from within and collapse. That is what they counted on. This did not happen. It turned out for many of us, and even more so for Western countries, that the fundamental foundations of Russia's stability are much stronger than anyone thought.
While the Kremlin said AUKUS submarine deal raises proliferation questions. The signing of the defense treaty to counter Chinese influence in the Indo-Pacific also alarmed the UN Secretary-General, who fears seeing the world fall back into a Cold War. The move mirrors a Western commitment to ensure a military presence in the Indo-Pacific region, aiming at shoring up stability, as they claim.
On Tuesday, the Executive Office of the Union of Arab National Olympic Committees announced the North African country Algeria to host the 15th edition of the Arab Games this summer. At its 38th meeting held yesterday in Saudi Arabia's state Jeddah, the executive office acknowledged that Algeria should be the chosen country and the opening window to re-establish and give a revival to the Arab Games, which had been interrupted since 2004 for several matters. In the closure of our news bulletin, we end up with Champions League results as Manchester City managed to overcome the German team Leipzig in the second game of the round 16 after the first round that ended up with a goal in each side. This time, citizens humiliate the Germans with 7-0, with Erling Haaland, the Norwegian striker, scoring 5 goals by his own to take his team to the next stage of the tournament. On the other game, the Portuguese club FC Porto couldn't make it through to pass against the Snakes, the Italian Inter Milan, by losing the second aggregate game 1-0 at the Dragao Stadium in Portugal after first leg that ended up in a scoreless draw in Milan. To this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for being with us in this news bulletin. For now, all I can say, good night.